First and foremost, I wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of Chasen's couch dance. I opened it, but nobody was in chat. I hope that we are all excited about the potential of the Chasen couch dance. I am super excited to make my best friend from high school dance for our pleasure. If you don't know who Chasen is, and it would be really weird if you didn't, but just in case, Chasen and I are sharing the Discord spaceship from which I originate, and he hosts live streams on Friday and Saturday nights. Friday nights, I co-host with him. We do a bunch of indie games and try out smaller games, things that we think are worth taking a look at. Hopefully, sometimes we end up with a dud, because we're going all the way out there, but sometimes we find something really cool, a little hidden gem, so please hang out on Fridays. And then Saturdays is a little bit more community chess, kind of whatever Chasen is feeling. Right now, he's playing through Disco Elysium. That's a lot of fun. Last night, he had his guest, a friend of his, Milky Puff, who is a live living streamer, the kind of thing where you never turn the camera off, or almost never, living out in Japan. And so it's a lot of fun. Chasen, who is always way better than me at making new friends and finding really interesting, cool people. So I think over time, we're going to be doing a lot over there. But next Saturday, it's couch dance time! It is hand-to-mouth club time, and first and foremost, I just wanted to start out by thanking everybody who's been coming and hanging out on the Discord and sharing their various recipes and strategies and what they do to feed themselves. I have had a blast hanging out with people. It's been getting more and more active every week, and I actually wanted to start today's stream by highlighting one of the things that was posted to the Discord this last week by, let me make sure I get your name right, because there's this other, I do this thing where I mess up names, and I don't want to do that here because they're really cool. Anyway, I want to pull up the thing because I had it prepped. Yes, Sir Deadlock. So Sir Deadlock posted their leftovers soup, and I just thought we would kind of take a look together here first off. So first I'm going to have to put away Chasen's thing here. One moment. Where's Chasen's? Chasen's, where are you, Chasen's? There it is. Goodbye, dance party. All right, so let's start with the leftover soup. I think it is this one here. Yeah. So, as you can see, Sir Deadlock started with a pretty basic mirepoix. If I'm looking there, I'm seeing the mirepoix, so celery, carrot, onion. We've also got some potato in there. Sir Deadlock, if you are in the chat, let us know what else is in there. But from the description, this was pretty much just a mix of what they had about. And tossed on a pot, simmered until it was soup, and I'm just going to go ahead and, whoa, what happened to my desktop? Hold on. Let's move up over to the next picture. So if we take a look at the next picture, yeah. So just cooking it till it's food, and there's nothing super fancy about it. I don't know that you're like, oh, wow, look at that. I really want to go to Instagram and let everybody know I'm eating that. But made with, go away. Yep. Made with the tools. I love the tools, by the way, Sir Deadlock. As everybody knows, I'm a big fan of very simple tools, especially for hand-to-mouth stuff. So Sir Deadlock sent in their gear, as we can see there. That is one flimsy plastic cutting board, a simple steak knife, and I see a plastic spoon there in the background too. That's all right. You know, you can have more than one tool. Instagram food is not real food, Mr. Entity. I agree, too. I posted that video in the Discord, and I think people were more than aware of her, but there's a woman on YouTube debunking a lot of these so-called easy, fast meals that are really designed by an algorithm to grab your attention more than help you. And I really love that people are starting to get really cynical about the quality of information that's offered to us at this point, because it has gotten awful. In any case, so those are the tools. I love it. Now, this is where it got a little interesting for me. Let me see if I can find it. Is it that one? That's not the best shot of it, although it does show you the tofu, which is the thing that I thought I would not have thought of, but is a nice protein addition. Where is it? Is it there? No? Is it there? There it is. Oh, well, we'll just stick with that. So there we go. So at this point, we've combined mirepoix, which is more of a French or sometimes a Creole base for flavors, and we've tossed in tofu, which borders a little bit on the sins of the 1960s when it comes to vegetarianism, but really, as long as you're embracing that what you're doing is taking a flavorful protein that absorbs a ton of flavor, which is what, I mean, tofu in soup is an amazing, amazing thing. So I think this is a great option, especially if you're trying to do more vegetarian, but just in general, tofu and soy are very affordable protein sources. You have to be somewhat careful with the heavily processed stuff, but there's good stuff out there. And the general demonization of tofu gets really ridiculous. I agree, Mr. Entity. I thought, let's see. Oh! They researched the content farms putting out the video. Oh, we should just, please post that in the Discord. I'd love to watch that later in the week. I really find it fascinating how much of the information that we're fed at this point is straight up predatory just to keep us looking at it. The fact that it doesn't serve any other purpose is so weirdly, beautifully 2020 dystopian. All right, so let's keep moving forward. So that was the tofu soup that Sir Deadlock shared. Let's share the final bowl, actually, because that was then served over, I believe, rice. Yeah, rice right there. So you've got that hugely flavorful broth. You've got all those beautiful vegetables. You've got that great tofu that's now absorbed all of that broth and everything else. And you toss a little bit of that on top of some rice. Honestly, it isn't that different from the way that I fed my family this week, which was the other thing that I'm going to go ahead and share right now. So if you were with us last week when I made Swedish pancakes with Hilo, I think you might be out there. Hi, Hilo. I made Thai curry. Now, I made the Thai curry pancakes, and those were good. We ate them. There wasn't a whole lot more to do with them past making them the pancake. They tasted pretty good. They were okay. Would I do it again? It wasn't better than a regular pancake, and it wasn't better than what I ate the rest of the week, which was straight up just Thai curry, because Thai curry is amazing. You don't need to do a lot more once you've got Thai curry. So I thought I would share with you my final day of Thai curry from this week. So by about Tuesday, Wednesday, I was at the dregs of the bowl. It had gotten pretty sad. Let's see if I've got a picture of that there. No, that's moving too forward. Oh, spoilers! Spoilers everywhere! No more spoilers! Beans and rice, another key part of that tofu dish that Sir Deadlock posted. This is part of what they make in order to expand that and make it into a healthy and filling meal. Again, looks like it's just a slow cooker and maybe a pressure cooker on that rice, or maybe just a rice cooker. In any case, beans and rice stretch anything and are always a good idea. No, also, still, okay, maybe that's the best one I got. So, here you can kind of see what I was dealing with. You've got a little bit left of the fat cap from the curry. That's the solidified coconut oil with all those spices and the curry paste that's been melted into it. There's a lot of flavor there. The liquid that's under there is maybe a little bit coconut milk, but a lot of it is really just the pulped mass of broccoli ook that had sat at the bottom of the pot. This was the scrapings at the last end of the glass bowl, and I was able to take those scrapings and actually make it into 2 more meals for us. So what I did was I just tossed in another couple chicken thighs. We got 3 chicken thighs there, and I heated that up for a little bit just to start to take the frost off, and then, nope, didn't do that yet. I'm organized. And then I tossed on some just cheap stir-fry vegetables. For Thai curry, any vegetable is good. Any vegetable that absorbs or has little pockets or granules, broccoli florets, crinkled kale, anything that's going to hold liquid is going to hold that sauce and be very, very flavorful and delicious. So I just tossed that on, and again, just let it cook to kind of defrost because I was lazy and didn't want to do that ahead of time. And then once it was semi-defrosted, I pulled the chicken out and I actually cut it up into bits. So you can see there, that is not cooked. That is barely defrosted, just a little bit softened up, and then pulled very quickly. Once I've chopped it up, I toss it back in the pot with the veggies. Now it cooks in seconds, right? So I've cut my cooking time in half by doing that step, and that means that I'm going to be eating that much sooner. Now, this was my last day of curry, and so, of course, that means that in order to take this and stretch it from 1 meal into 2, I took the old crappy white rice that was sitting in my fridge. You can see there that I had to hack at that to get it to break up. That was a very hockey puck level rice chunk right there. But I got that all chopped up, and that is why I used to refer to Thai food as infinite food, because you can add rice to it to a shocking degree and keep something delicious. So that was what I did with most of the curry. Usually I try to be a little bit more creative with what I'm doing, but when it comes to Thai curry, there comes a point where you just have curry in your fridge and you think, I'd like to eat some curry, and so it kind of just went there. But that was my week. We ate a ton of Thai curry. My wife made some no-bake chocolate cookies. I don't have a picture for those right now, but they're pretty good. I ate too many of them. And then that brings me actually to the last one that I wanted to take a look at before we jump over and give Mr. Entity a call, who's going to be sharing a recipe for lunch meat fried rice. So this last photo, this one I think was humbling for me, because my reaction actually isn't what I would want it to be. So check this out. So Sir Deadlock also posted this picture of another meal that they make for themselves that is filling and tastes good. As they said, it's nothing hugely fancy. It's not something they're making in order to impress anybody, but it'll fill you up, and it's better than just a pile of noodles. Well, when I first looked at this, I have to admit, I was not super excited about the recipe. To me, it looked a little sad, honestly. And I think I got caught up in that trap of how pretty is it. Because if I really step back for a second and I look at it, I like gnocchi, and gnocchi is pasta stuffed with potato. Now, is this exactly gnocchi? No, but the flavor profiles are there. There isn't necessarily a reason that potato is an unacceptable thing to pair with pasta. Now, Mr. Entity does point out it's double carbs. That's true. It's a very heavy carb load. But there are weeks where that gets you through. And if all you've got is a potato and some pasta and a little bit of butter, maybe combining them would help. I'll be getting a pop filter. I just can't find it, Mr. Entity. That's right. Burritos are also double carbs and still delicious. The idea that double carbs are somehow a horrible sin is, again, I think becoming a little bit too precious with all of your food choices. Obviously, you want to have things that are more nutritionally dense when you can. I would love to just toss some spinach in there. I think that you would up the quality of that meal for yourself by a lot. But at the end of the day, if what you've got to work with is what you've got to work with, that is not necessarily a disqualifying dish. I bet you can make that taste really good. And I'm glad that Sir Deadlock shared things that were that simple to show people just how little it really takes to take care of yourself and make sure that you are well and healthy. Not everything needs to be something that is an incredible magazine photo or involving a ton of different techniques and ingredients. Sometimes a few ingredients combined and made palatable is more than enough. There you go. Sir Deadlock says they were trying to use up their potatoes before they went bad. Exactly, before they went bad. That's how I use half the food that I use, right? On a certain level, you are on a timetable. Any food that goes bad is just money lost. So if you've got something that's about to go rotten, the best thing you can do in the world is put it in something before it becomes nothing. And boom, potato pasta. Great. I love it. I really, really love it. I am so thrilled. Hot sauce on everything, D. Deloney. Yes, we were actually talking about hot sauce in the Discord earlier. There was a bit of a controversy about the sugar content of sriracha, which has some sugar, Mr. Entity. I get it, but their point that it's not as sugary as ketchup, I think, does stand, and not everyone uses sriracha with the way that they do ketchup. If you're using it the way that I think most people do, which is a little bit sparingly, you're certainly getting less than you would with ketchup. It is still sugar, though. I mean, there's no way around that. There's definitely sugar in sriracha. Beyond that, unless you have Hilo's geographic tongue, in which case I am so sorry for you, because hot sauce is one of the great pleasures of life. Hot sauce is another really great way to expand any kind of food that's getting a little bit old, or that's just a little bland, or when you try a recipe and it just doesn't work, hot sauce is a great emergency pull. Oh, so your issue, Mr. Entity, is just that they're calling themselves zero sugar by gamifying what they call a serving size to be. I think that's probably fair. I mean, you taste sriracha, you have to know there's some sugar there, but maybe not, maybe not. People tell themselves many things. So those are the big meals that were shared that I was really excited with this week. A huge thank you to Damaged, who shared that tornado omelet last week. If you are on the Discord and you are making something, please come and share it with me. I love to see what people are working with. I love to see what people are thinking about. And I might share it with everybody else live. In the meantime, Mr. Entity, I think it may be about time to give you a call. So I am going to shuffle around here and put my headphones on, and then we're going to be calling Mr. Entity and learning a little something about lunch meat fried rice. Do Tic Tacs have tree sap in them? I've never heard that. I guess it's possible. Okay, Mr. Entity, yeah, just let me know when you are ready to and I will give you a call. Send me the heads up on chat. A Scythe? If you make a fine Japanese rolled omelet and you have a cell phone and you'd like to show us what you do, I love examples. I really like that within our community in the Discord, there are a lot of people that are down to show what they do to feed themselves. And it really does take a range. There's some people in there that are making some really serious stuff. They clearly have some pretty serious skills. There are other people that are really just trying to make it through another week. And I really, really enjoy that spread. So to everybody who has been contributing to the Discord, thank you so very, very much. It has been really a joy to watch that bubble up and get to be its own sort of place. And I'm really excited for this next year of playing around and figuring out what we're going to do as a community.
Hey.
Welcome to Hand to Mouth. We know being broke sucks. We make it suck less. Every week, we meet with somebody to share a recipe that they use to make it through when they're struggling. We also talk about the Hand to Mouth Club community, what's been going on in our Discord, and I might give you a preview of other things to come. This week, we again have Mr. Entity all the way from beautiful Canada. And this time, there will not be Marmite and chili. No. This time, we are doing lunch meat fried rice. So thank you everybody for joining us today, and I hope the week has gone well for you. It has been another super relaxing week without any stress or concern for everybody, and everything has been perfect.
Everything's fine.
I think we're all doing great, and we're going to just kind of jump right in. Mr. Entity, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you? I know that you had to kind of claw your way back to the internet recently, so thank you for doing that to join us.
My provider essentially refused to accept that I had paid them.
Oh, that's always fun.
And when you don't have a phone or the internet, it's really hard to argue with them.
Well, I'm so sorry. That's no fun at all.
Yeah, and in the middle of a pandemic, it's hard to go to the library or whatever and get some free internet. I tried to borrow a cup of internet from my neighbors, but there are a lot of not necessarily native English speakers, and also it's a pandemic. They don't necessarily want to invite me to their house.
Right.
And also, don't use borrow a cup of internet as a phrase to people who maybe don't understand English. They don't know what I'm talking about.
Oh, weird. That didn't go perfectly well? That was...
No, it turns out that's not a standard English phrase.
No, that takes me a second to think my way through. I would imagine if I didn't know English to start with, and I'm in a pandemic, and I don't want to deal with anybody in the first place, having somebody saying random words at my door is not going to get me to open up very easily. Yeah,
I try normally to kind of dumb down my language because I do know a lot of English and stuff, but I have wound up, for example, at Christmas dinner at my cousin's once, who's married to just a fisherman, and they had their fisher family there. And we were talking about Rubik's Cubes for some reason, I don't recall. And I used the phrase exponentially more permutations and just got the blankest looks I've ever seen in my life.
Well, to be fair, that's a whole lot of big words all at once. No, it is...
Yeah. They are technically perfectly accurate. I just should have found a different way to say that in that case.
Code switching is actually a pretty big important thing to learn. It's something I'm actually thinking about in terms of the hand-to-mouth series. I think in America, at least, and I think it's a fairly universal thing, there are certain words, there's certain diction and ways of speaking that are codified as being of education and wealth and access that make people assume you are worth giving more opportunity to. And I think that there are a number of people that are unaware of how instantly they are disqualified by the kinds of gatekeepers that determine whether or not you get to do a lot of things simply by the way they speak and sort of the shared jokes of the rich kid that if you know how to ape just a little bit, you can make somebody think you come from a wildly different class. So I think there's something there to do. But it is also always valuable to be able to effectively communicate with whoever you're dealing with. I don't speak the same way when I'm in deep southwest Texas talking to my cousins who have farmed and done nothing else, and refer to wearing...
Oh, yeah, I definitely have I have a separate, professional diction than I do in my regular patois.
Yeah,
and I definitely shouldn't use words like patois. But, basically, refrain from using multisyllabic phoneme combinations in the instance that you can communicate your point with minuscule ones.
That's right. You know, that always turns out to be the case.
Don't use big words when small ones will do.
There you go. But, you know, that always kind of turns out to be the case. In fact, I can usually tell when one of my smarter friends are cornered when the really big words start flying out. You know, when they reach into their pocket for their professional verbiage. And you're like, you got nervous.
Yeah, here's my 5-syllable word that you don't know what it means. Maybe that'll lend weight to my argument.
Yeah. Stalling. Well, what you need to understand about the tertiary complications of the primary... So today, in the Discord, we had initially thought that we would be making spam. We had talked about spam. I think this roachly bubbled up because...
spam is what I have.
Oh, you do have spam. Okay, because you had mentioned...
I have spam. The thing is... I bought a can of spam.
Unbranded spam can. That...
definitely not spam in any way.
Does it...
This costs $5.50. And for $5.50, I can buy almost 2 pounds of medium ground beef.
See, that's interesting to me. I wonder if some of that has to do with the pernicious... horror of branding, and just the fact that, you know, spam has sort of had a rise and dip and rise again, in that way back in the 40s, 50s, it maybe was okay, or it was soldier food, whatever. It was something people ate, and then it became something people...
It was rations that a lot of people got used to.
Yeah, and then it became something people did not eat pointedly because it was seen as hierarchically damning, right? If you were somebody who ate spam, you were of a low class. And... I think in the last 10 years, you've seen a recontextualization of spam in the sort of gourmet, lowbrow, highbrow fad that has made spam...
Yeah, it's interesting how many chefs whose names you can just look up. If you did that maybe 20 years ago, everyone would be like, no, that's correct.
Yeah, I think it really has... I think it's changed. I just think the tone of what people accept and think about spam has changed. Also, spam has now been is now a brand again. I noticed when I was looking it up that they now have some weird flavors out there, like teriyaki and jalapeno. And
they have teriyaki flavor and spam fries in a can and a bunch of weird stuff.
Spam.
But the thing I did.
Oh man, that's
because it was $5.50. There was only one other similar luncheon meat there, and it was half the price, and it's this brand luncheon meat.
Ooh, pain de viande.
That's the standard brand in Greece, as far as I can tell. It's a very bad food production joke.
I
bought that just to compare it.
Yeah, I'm really curious, actually. Are you okay with opening both? Because my first question is,
Oh,
what's
yeah.
the difference? I'll say this. I read this the other day. Apparently, about 5-6 years ago, maybe 10 years ago now, they started adding potato starch to absorb the jelly that used to form in the can. It is apparently only an aesthetic thing.
In
So
Spam?
there's jelly in the cheap one and no jelly in the Spam. That may, in fact, mean nothing.
Spam ingredients: pork, water, salt, modified potato starch, sugar, and sodium nitrate.
Yep. The potato starch is there so you don't get the gooey ring.
Brand name luncheon meat. It's immediately sounds worse, so I can see why it's cheaper. Mechanically separated chicken, then chicken, pork, water, wheat flour, salt, potato starch, sodium, MSG, sodium erythorbate, which I don't know what it is, sodium nitrate, spice, and smoke. And then a warning that it contains wheat.
Yeah, it may be an emulsifier or a homogenizer, so Deadlock.
Here's all the meats in a meatloaf thing.
Yeah. Well, why don't we open them up? I'd love to see the difference between the two, just aesthetically.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is Spam actually high class? Is this what we're going to learn? Is it the Vienna sausage of canned meats?
This smells like tuna. Like, it smells like canned meat. Same at that point.
There you go. Oh, and the Jello glop. Oh, perfect. The perfect gelatinous cube just kind of wobbles out.
So that's the Spam. It's I should point out that I didn't choose to make Spam because I love Spam a lot. There was just a discussion in the Discord about Spam for some reason I don't recall, and I brought up I'd only ever eaten it once, and that was kind of as a dare in high school, and I just ate it like this, and it was nasty.
Yeah, you cannot. So that is not a way to eat Spam. Spam is not a straight out the can food. If you know somebody eating Spam straight out of the can, I think that they're probably pretty sad.
This one comes with one of these oldie style keys.
Old timey.
Yeah, I do have one of the few like canned meats I like is corned beef. And I recognize it tastes like cat food. I just got used to it growing up. And that's the only thing I've ever had to use one of these keys for. They're not common.
Yeah, I think actually corned beef is a pretty good corollary for this kind of thing. Oh, I mean, maybe I'm about to misspoke. Maybe you like to eat corned beef straight out of the can, in which case I won't judge you. I eat some cold corn.
No, I put it on like sandwiches or whatever.
Yeah. But like usually corned beef, you heat up a little bit or you dress up a little bit. I think the same is true for Spam. It's just not. It's not something you just take a slice of. You at least are gonna brown it a bit.
Yeah.
Although apparently they used to just take the brick out, put cloves and oh, hello kitty, cat. What's that?
She heard a can. Her name is Saint Kitty.
Saint Kitty, that's a good name.
Yeah. Oh, you did a jump wrong. Perhaps I will give her some of this canned. See what she thinks.
There you go. I mean, it's luxury cat food.
It does. That's the thing I say about all tinned meat. It always smells like pet food. Like, it doesn't matter what kind it is. Something in the canning process where they have to pasteurize it and overcook it. It brings out this pet foodie.
Yeah, it definitely does. It kind of makes you wonder. Not enough to try it unless there's an extreme charity at some point. But, like, could one make pet food edible? Unfortunately, the standards that, at least in the U.S., that they have for pet food are so abysmal that I wouldn't recommend.
She doesn't want it. Man, eat the thing. No, she's scared of it. Which doesn't lend me a lot of confidence.
DeLoney, do they really have human pet food tasters? I've not heard that before.
Yeah. There are people in the factories that are employed to test the pet food.
Really? Oh, so it's entirely safe to eat then? If they're having people
yes, and the reason for that is that there are old people who are very poor or stupid and will just buy cat food and eat it.
Right.
And eventually, around the world went, maybe we should stop them dying from the shit we give our pets and just let them eat the garbage for whatever reason.
Wow, how unexpectedly illustrative of the world around us. Yikes. But okay, good to know.
Yeah, it's,
good to know.
I'm just gonna try.
I have tasted dry dog food once. I didn't swallow it because it didn't taste like something I wanted to swallow, but I was writing a book
Yep.
in which a character had to eat dog food, and I wanted to know what that would be like.
Gotta do that research.
I took the bite, and not great. Not great.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna try a piece of each of these raw, as it were, and this one has almost no flavor.
Interesting. So it's just like a protein brick.
There's a vague pet food flavor, like like tin tuna. That the difference in taste between actual tuna and tin tuna is exactly what this tastes. And then the Spam, more flavor, not terribly offensive.
Okay. All right. So the Spam
I wouldn't want to eat it raw like that.
Would you say if you're gonna go down the canned meat lane, which is a fairly rare lane to begin with, let's be honest. But let's say you're doing it. Let's say there's a good sale on Spam or some other canned meat. It may in fact be worth it to go up a buck or two and get the Spam.
Yeah, this is even uncooked instantly better. My left earbud just went into pairing mode.
I love it. Oh, D. Deloney says they had a Spam scramble just this morning. I was really amused when we started chatting about Spam in the Discord with how many people had not just opinions but fairly firm opinions, and how many people chimed in with "I ate spam this week."
Yeah, I got one ear now. So now you're even quiet.
That's good luck.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so starting with that,
I my equipment to get into the zeitgeist of the show. So I've just got this. This is from the first knife block I ever bought. It's the only knife I have left from it. Every single knife, including the chef's knife in that block, was serrated. So
really,
that's what I got. Yeah.
It was a serrated chef's knife? I've never even heard of such a thing.
I don't know how much the knife block cost. I was like 19 when I bought it, and I'm not sure even why I bought a whole knife block.
Oh, that feels like the kind of knife block where you're shopping and it's like one knife costs $20, or the whole knife block costs $20, and 19-year-old goes,
yeah, that was probably something. So this is actually cutting through the Spam pretty well. It's going to be when I get to the carrots and stuff that I'm going to be more worried.
Oh, yeah, carrots are kind of a bitch. But any kind of potted meat should chop pretty easily. I have a feling you could do that with a butter knife.
I'm not sure how well this will come across on camera, but the difference in texture, this is the brand meat. You can see it's like completely homogeneous and
yeah, it just kind of looks like rubber.
Whereas the Spam, you can see there's like chunks and stuff in it.
Oh, so the Spam has more of an actual meat grain to it, to a certain degree.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna, see how they both work. I'm certainly not gonna throw this other can out because again, it's not like offensively bad. It just doesn't taste like anything.
No. Well, and if you're making fried rice, you're doing one of those dishes where what the meat tastes like is so secondary to everything else going on in that dish that as long as it kind of has protein and texture, you're good to go.
Yeah, I'm going to do some amount of just like tasting what stuff is like. I'm going to make a. The other main thing that came up that led me to fried rice as an idea was a Spam musubi, which is essentially. People think it's Hawaiian. I did a little amount of research last night. Turns out it was invented in Japanese internment camps in America. So hooray!
Oh, was it? Wow. Well, that's dark and not all that shocking at a certain level.
It makes sense because World War II is the era of Spam.
Well, and I'm sure that, not to disparage the wonderful American government that has never done anything wrong, but the idea that
perfectly innocent.
Yeah, may have tossed in the cheapest meat they had available, maybe some laying around in old warehouses. Doesn't shock all that much, let's say.
No. So I'm going to attempt, I don't have sushi rice, so that's why I went to fried rice, which I'll be doing in a minute. I'll just sear the stuff off in this cast iron first, but I will try to make like a deconstructed, to use an incredibly pretentious term, spam musubi, to try to get a more like straight up, this is, you're eating spam, as opposed to the fried rice, which will be, hey, I put some protein in here.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense. I love that. Yeah, deconstructed is a great way of saying I don't want to do the part of this that's fiddly and commercial, essentially. Like, here are the flavors. Here are the flavors.
Well, in this case, it means I have old rice that won't form into a ball.
Right.
So I have to make just a mess on a plate that tastes the same.
Call it a chirashi bowl.
I don't know what that means.
The chirashi is a bowl in sushi restaurants is essentially a bowl of sushi rice that is then topped with slices of fish or vegetable or what have you. So it's kind of a similar idea. It's the same
it's a rice bowl,
but in a bowl.
Yeah. So I've got some onions here that I'll...
D. Deloney says, good food does seem to come out of human rights abuses, and that they hope nobody takes that out of context. But I just did! So there you go, D. Deloney. D. Deloney, in favor of human rights abuses for mild improvement in flavor.
Yeah! Hooray!
Hey, said the jerk. Yeah, we're not sure exactly why we're low today in terms of volume. I'm going to work on it for next week, but check out the podcast as well, and I'll be able to up the audio there. So this won't be permanent, and I'll figure out what's going on for next week's stream.
Well, I left one now and try without it. Yeah, so I've got some rice I made last night. You can tell it's from last night because it's essentially a big clump.
There you go. Rice cement.
Yeah, it's called retrogradation, if I want to throw out another giant word.
Ooh,
but essentially it means all the starches have turned crystallized. So it's a different texture. That's why you want to make your rice the day before for fried rice.
Oh, that's cool. And is that a texture, does that happen instantaneously with the change in temperature back to cool? Or is it a
temperature related. It's not instantaneous. Essentially, from my understanding... there are amylose and amylopectin, which are two polysaccharides in rice. Which polysaccharides is basically a fancy way of saying standard carb. And once you heat them up in a liquid, they turn sort of viscous. But then when you cool it down again afterwards, or there are other ways of doing it, but that's the main way, they reform into like a crystalline structure, so they're much harder. And that's how that works.
That's so. Well, yes. Thank you. I have to say, I really enjoy that you have those kinds of tidbits. You did a great job with that with the chili too, of just kind of having knowing enough little things to give us a taste.
I've watched a lot of Good Eats.
There you go. I love Alton Brown. I really do like. I really have been enjoying with the Discord this sort of curation element where people have been posting interesting things worth watching. I saw. Were you the one that posted the watermelon rind? Uh-oh, did we lose Mr. Entity?
My video might have cut out there. I don't know where you went.
Yes, I think your video disappeared.
1 second. I will use my non-spam hand to try to get it back.
D. Deloney, yes, the BBC, there you are. The BBC video on fried rice, is that the one where they boiled the rice and then drained it and the guy lost his mind? Chasen, I think, posted that.
So, I've got some, basically what's going to go in the fried rice is carrots, onions, that I had to buy whole new ones, because apparently I'm not allowed to use American onions, and it's hard to tell what the provenance of the onions I had were. Now issues in Canada right now with American onions. That immediately smells like a...
Well, thank you, Sid the Jerk. I do appreciate your support. Yeah, I know that there's only a certain portion of the audience that's really super excited about cooking in specific, and I think that for people that are more committed to exclusively the sketch comedy, they're going to be very excited towards the end of September when we start the Hand to Mouth podcast with the new audio sketches. But in the meantime, I have been having a blast doing this, and it has been really fascinating to see how many people have popped up excited to dig into this topic. And I feel like it's something, when I look out there are a ton of great people doing great work on recipes and techniques and this kind of thing. But when it comes to the perspective of financial struggle and being honest and realistic with it, I just don't see as much there. And so I don't know. A certain portion of this will always be cooking. Will it exclusively be cooking? It already isn't. We're doing the live stream on Friday and Saturday where Chasen takes a look at some more smaller, more niche video games and indie stuff. And I'm in the lab pretty deep right now working on my first wave of sketch comedy in the last 7 years, which I'm very excited for. And I've got some familiar faces that you might enjoy seeing. So I blinked out there for a second.
Like a minute, 30 seconds.
All right, everybody.
Long enough for me to essentially say a lot of chefs tend to assume that everybody has all the tools in the world.
Yes, yeah, I think that's true. A lot of chefs and a lot of cooking shows really do make an assumption that you have a full kitchen. Frankly, that you have all kinds of tools and pots and pans.
And you're done.
So that's another big thing, and something that I've really enjoyed. I've loved that people have kind of gotten into it. There's been a lot of people in Discord who have posted things where they've shown how they've been able to do something with limited tools. So, yeah, I think it's just one of those. It's one of those things I discovered through necessity. I just didn't have the tools, and I wanted to try to make something. And you come to the realization pretty quickly. Some things you absolutely have to have that super fancy French, strainer filter thing in order to perfection the broth and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of things are just a little bit worse, but actually pretty delicious without the perfect tools.
If you'd like a very immediate example of that, normally for fried rice, I would cut my carrots into like matchsticks. That's definitely not fucking happening with this.
No, screw that.
Yeah, I'm getting some rounds. And it still sucks.
That's right, D. Deloney. They also
time to use my very good knife technique with the worst knife in the world.
Sid the Jerk, the headset, I'm actually not sure what headset this is. My wife's father got some headphones. I think he was doing a law podcast like 2 or 3 years ago, and he still had this pair in the back of his closet, so it's whatever that was. I'm not using the microphone. I use a Yeti Nano for the microphone, but I'm using it for the
ear
so that you don't get the echo.
Yes, these are picking up a real nice beer.
Yeah, and so far as chefs assuming you know what you're doing, I don't know if it's that they assume you know what you're doing as much as when you're an expert at something and it's the only thing that you've done for years, it gets really hard to remember what it is like to be a beginner. Just what is not obvious is difficult. And I think we all...
Yeah, that's actually a problem they have in universities, is they have to teach professors how to remember what they didn't know at the start.
Yeah, exactly.
Because otherwise they forget where the difficulties were.
Yeah, because and that's a human thing. It's just very, very, very easy to discredit your areas of expertise or your personal abilities and skills as obvious or mundane, and then look at other people and think, oh, wow, they know how to do so many things that I could never do. And that is a trap in a lot of ways. But one of the biggest ways is that it makes it very hard to teach somebody something because you just, where are the edges?
This knife is terrible. I don't envy you having to do an entire series with your garbage knife.
It's definitely...
Or frankly, anyone that's just their life.
It is immediately crippling, which is kind of the reason I do it in part, just to show what it's like, because I think that it's the part that gets hidden in most shows. Hey, dog, I'm not giving you more treats right now. No, you don't need the treats right now.
Screw something up or you have difficulty with something, they just cut that out.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. 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 I mean, even when we made the first Hand to Mouths back in the day, the original show, when you make a cooking show, you mostly throw things away. You make a lot of garbage
Yeah.
because it just doesn't make sense to do it any other way. And I think if you were a little duplicitous, and lo and behold, a lot of people that make media are, it is very easy to just make pretend that you know what you're doing or have given good advice and skip over the part where that didn't work at all, but now here, look, it's perfect. So far for our fried rice, it looks like we've got slices of meat frying in the pan, and we've got our chopped carrots.
Yep.
Do you have any other vegetables going into fried rice, or do you keep it kind of simple?
There's going to be some onion, and then some frozen peas at the end.
Nice. Classic.
And also, I have to use up a lot of stuff in my freezer because it went all stupid. So everything's freezer. I'm probably going to wind up making some pea soup soon because I got a lot of freezer burnt pork.
Oh, well, there you go. That's a great use for freezer burnt pork.
Yep. Also, a very, very good food that costs almost nothing. The interesting thing about it, though, is that traditional Canadian Quebecois pea soup involves buying a smoked ham hock, which is supposed to be like a super cheap, ubiquitous ingredient that I cannot buy in my province.
Really?
And even if I went to buy like a regular ham hock, it's super expensive. Like all of the meats that people don't really want are really expensive in my province because there aren't enough people to warrant the subsection of people that will actually buy it.
Oh, wow. Yeah, actually, I mean, that sounds very similar to what I grew up with when it comes to pea soup. Although I think we may have done a kind of a traditional English pea soup, so maybe I ended up in your neighborhood kind of end running it. But the smoked ham or smoked ham hock is sort of what I know of as pea soup as well. But I'm in a part of the country where you find that in piles at the grocery store. That is the cheapest thing around.
Yeah, I actually went to a butcher store the first time I was trying to make like an actual traditional pea soup and not just, hey, here's pea soup. And I asked the butcher if he had a smoked ham hock, and he literally said, no, I don't. We can't sell them, so we don't stock them.
Oh,
and then he sold me a smoked ham instead.
Is smoked fish at all popular in your part of the world? I wonder if you could make a version of pea
soup. There's a lot of smoked salmon.
I bet a smoked salmon pea soup could be good.
That would be interesting. I've never put fish in.
Me either. I have no idea.
But also smoked salmon is stupid expensive.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's a big high risk play. That kind of defeats the purpose. The whole point of a smoked ham hock is that it's supposed to cost nothing and make the soup good.
Yeah, if I was like in Scandinavia, I could probably buy a lot of smoked herrings and stuff, but that's not terribly common. Possibly because we have so much fresh seafood. Like PEI has world-class lobsters and mussels and oysters and blah, blah, blah. Like I can go during the summer, the lobster fishermen will sit in vans on the street and sell stuff to the populace for cheaper than you can get it in the grocery store because they don't get enough money from the middlemen. And it's like $5 a pound for lobster for me, whereas you can go other places in the world with like 40.
Oh yeah, you can end up spending way more than that on lobster in a lot of the parts of the worlds that I have been in over the years. I think that's it comes down to locality, right? When I was in Texas, you could get beef as cheap as you could ever hope. But actually produce as well. Texas is a pretty high producing agricultural area. But when I was in the northeastern United States, especially in New York and Pennsylvania area, produce was rough. I mean, it was pretty sad and pretty slim pickings and very expensive comparatively. So it really just has a huge impact on where you're living as to what works. So when it's that ubiquitous, have you gotten to the point where lobster is just gross to you, or are you completely burned out on that kind of seafood, or do you still enjoy it? I
have never found lobster to be that good. It doesn't have a lot of flavor. It's usually dunked in butter, so it just tastes like butter. Where I live, like, there are still lobster suppers and stuff. There's certainly a lot of restaurants that do that because we have a huge tourism industry, and people will come and eat the lobster. But I think most, like, people who grew up here or spent a lot of time here kind of are in the same boat as me that, yeah, I'll give it to me, but it doesn't really taste like anything. What am I doing? Unless you're making, like, super fancy lobster thermidor or something where you're making a lobster stock and concentrating.
Right. I would guess, actually, at that state, lobster bisque, or do they do the lobster roll in up in your part of the world? I know that's a big New England kind of thing.
Here that during the summer, McDonald's sells lobster.
Nothing like a McLobster roll. I hope it's as good as the McRib. You know, lobster and shellfish as a meat have things to recommend them. They're not the worst thing. They are very mild. They're pretty popular, actually, in some stir fries and that kind of thing.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of Asian stuff that uses fish and shellfish. It's going to be the, like, non-coastal areas that don't use a lot of fish. Another thing I can get here real cheap is during the summer, mussels for $2 a pound, and that's like 10 minutes of effort to make a delicious meal.
Did you say mussels?
Throw a bunch of them in a pot with some little bit of wine and some fluid, and you've got food.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of mussels. Mussels are actually one of the more sustainable seafoods that you can get as well, if I remember correctly. The farming.
Well, that's another thing, because we basically we essentially plant them. You seed them onto a thing that floats in the water, and then you come back and you get them. It's not like we're harvesting them out of the ocean.
Yeah, exactly.
Just randomly.
Yeah, it's which the other one that I learned recently that's not as bad as I had assumed is tilapia. Now you have to be careful; it's not true everywhere, but it is.
Depends where you're getting it, yeah.
But it is one of the few fish that the farmed version is actually considered to be a good idea and fairly sustainable choice, and happens to be cheaper. So in terms of cheap seafood that is easy to eat, there's a reason that we made that episode about tilapia way back when. There's a reason that it's kind of the frozen fish.
A bunch of stuff that you can get. There's a very good website that I think someone linked in the Discord. It's called like Seafood Watch or something. There's a university that basically how sustainable every fish from every country is. And, you can use that to inform your decision in terms of environmentalism.
Yeah, I think that was Lucifer, Sir Lucifer?
I can't recall. I already knew about it, so I just kind of...
Discord. But yes, I think that's right. Let me just take a look here. Reference desk. I want to make sure. Lucifer Sam posted that, the Seafood Watch in the Discord. Also posted...
well then, hooray for...
to stockpile for possible quarantine. So definitely worth checking it out. And thank you, if you're watching, Sam, for checking that out.
Oh yeah, knowing what to keep in your pantry, just even in the case of power outage, what are you going to eat?
Yeah, I think, the old... Oh, D. Deloney, that's you. Great. Okay, yeah. D. Deloney is Lucifer Sam. Well, thank you, D. Deloney. Yeah, pantry craft is just one of those things that... And pantry banking, that are kind of just key skills that really kind of keep you going week to week. You can really dramatically reduce your weekly grocery bill by knowing how to stock and make use of some basic staples. And Mr. Entity has been caught in the horrible quagmire of, I've got a hot, heavy pan and I don't know where to go.
Yeah. It's a little bit harder when you're trying to present, because normally I don't have a camera trying to show what I'm doing here. Well, I've got some... I have also had the horrible experience with that of one of my old oven mitts. Turns out it had a hole in like this area, and I grabbed it out of the oven when it was in there at 550 degrees, and I couldn't use my hand for like a week.
Whoa!
Cooking is fun! So I now have some cooked versions of both of these things. I'll give them another taste now that they got a good sear on them. See how that's affected the flavor. And then I'll move on to, fried rice takes like 3-4 minutes to do.
Yeah, the fried rice, it's recent. The funny thing about doing this live stream or podcast with the cooking thing is that really the best dishes in my mind for when you're struggling financially are dishes that can be done very quickly and simply. So on a certain level, like there's a natural limit to the podcast on that level, in that it's sort of like if we made a turducken, it would be highly hypocritical. And if I tried to make you do something that took 9 hours, I would kind of feel guilty about it. Like, it would feel like useless advice, That being said, when we do the brisket, I feel like things that you can put in the oven and then, like, go to sleep and wait overnight, that's a different world, Yeah.
Active time is the thing that matters, not how long the thing generally.
Yeah. All right, so you've been tasting this. Is that both types? What's the difference here once you've heated it up? Does that release anything flavor-wise?
I'm gonna get a slightly less seared version of the Spam. I think it's just called luncheon. It has no specific designation of what it is. That is a lot better. The Spam has more, like I can still kind of taste the original flavor, but mostly it just tastes like the crust on a steak.
That doesn't sound so bad.
All the caramelization has done it wonders for that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And this other one actually now tastes like something. So that's nice.
Would you say, which one would you say, does Spam still hold up as the better option, or now that you've crisped them, are we getting...
Not really, no. Once you've seared them, it's pretty fun.
That makes sense. I mean, if you think about it, both were pretty mild flavors. So once you've caramelized the sugars on the exterior of the meat, in much the way that a hamburger is the flavor is made by that caramelization, it would make sense that would become the predominant flavor, which is an argument, if you're at this level, for going with the cheaper one, I would say at this time.
Absolutely. If you're not selling it to someone, I wouldn't necessarily bother buying a Spam. Certainly not where I live with it. I hate this.
I've had that kind of pot so many times in my life.
It's not even the pot; it's the burner.
Are you lopsided?
It just kind of wobbles. It doesn't. Yeah. It doesn't sit flat. But I'm going to put a little bit of rice in here for the musubi, and try to flavor it as I heat it up a little bit with some brand name rice vinegar.
Brand name?
Yeah, I went all the way to Greece for this one.
Ooh,
little bit of rice vinegar.
Mr. Slippery says, cheap turducken with all canned meats wrapped in doughy layers of not quite cheese. I'd try it. Whew. Man, you're gonna have a real hard time making that not get... I feel like that's going to be subject to fast food rules, which means that when it's right hot out of the oven,
that's going to be
might be okay.
Something.
And like 4 minutes in, you're going to start hating yourself as just all of that congealed mass starts to kind of firm.
Yeah, so I'm trying to... sushi rice is generally... Or more accurately... when you're folding it whilst doing this with a fan over it until it cools down.
Yes. It's a whole... Sushi rice is a very delicate and very specific process that I've never been great at. I've made sushi-flavored rice, and that was okay with
it. But, it's basically a little salt, a little sugar, a little MSG. Most of the recipes I glossed over for Spam musubi involved furikake, which is like a mixture of spices. So I threw some sesame oil in there to try to get the sesame flavor.
Yeah, I mean, from all the recipes that I looked up, and we posted a couple in the Discord. I'll post another couple later this week too, when I post this podcast. But the process is very simple.
It's not complicated.
No, it's a very, very
it's essentially
dish.
Spam, nori, sushi rice, and furikake is the standard.
Yeah, that's pretty much the whole deal. I have to at this point encourage people to consider a salad or other vegetable when eating this, but the seaweed does at least give you a little something.
Oh yeah, I also have people were mentioning pickles as a good side. When they were both going off a bit, they've got some heat in them. It's basically, I mean, I'll link it in the Discord because it is literally one of the only recipes I use that's specifically what the chef said, and it's Alton Brown firecrackers, so they're a little spicy too. So that'll be a decent side.
Yeah, that sounds great. And please do. I'm a big fan of pickled onions. It's something that shows up in barbecue a lot.
So I'm not going to attempt to roll this because I know it'll just screw up. I'm just going to tear some of this and then
it's deconstructed.
cut in some of this spam. Yeah. I.e. messy.
Yes, that's right.
Is basically all it means.
Look, I put it
I
in
couldn't
piles.
be asked.
Eat it, you pieces of garbage. Stop asking me to put it in nice
It's
tablets
food.
for you. Yeah, Zimmerlin.
Yeah.
Chasen and I actually did a pre-made turducken during the FNBC Theater Days for one of the Thanksgivings. And I have to say, I think it's overrated. It's one of those things that conceptually talking about is kind of fun, but then when you're actually eating it, you're just sort of like, oh, so it's 3 birds and some okay dressing. That's all it really is, But
yeah, it's like one of those epic mealtime things where they just go, here's the most ridiculous thing we can think of, and it probably doesn't taste very great.
Yeah, I remember. I think it was the Big Mac lasagna for me was when I was just like, oh no, they've created for themselves a gilded cage from which there's no escape. Like imagine being 50 years old and still being like, dudes, can we make yet another super loco burrito? I'm so tired. I just want to hang out with my kids and respect myself, dudes. Who here wants to chug hot sauce mixed with Coca-Cola and see if it comes out her nose? My life is slowly crumbling apart. Please stop looking at me.
I'm not sure if it is specifically Epic Mealtime that I'm thinking of, but those dudes that did the bacon weave and stuff, I watched a few of their videos and just immediately went, this is...
You froze out, Mr. Entity.
Dude.
You froze out there for a second. What did you say?
Did I?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it was Epic Mealtime, but I think it was the people that popularized the bacon weave that I watched a few videos of them and just immediately hated everything about the production. It was the most bro.
Oh yeah. The
culture thing
of
ever.
Food was this whole thing 8 years ago. I feel like that's sort of drifted away, and we've gone more into the gentrification of food era, but it was definitely a big thing way back in the day.
One nice thing about Spam when you've got a crappy knife is it's essentially gelatin, so it's real easy to cut.
It's ham pate, kind of. Not really, not at all.
Oh, ham pate is good.
That's true. It's ham slurry, ham jello slurry. Only the finest of ham jello slurries. For you.
Separated chicken.
Although it is interesting that it is in fact the nice the nice slurry. Oh
yeah, you don't want to cheap out on your slurries.
Scythe, that is a beautiful omelet. I'm gonna feature that. I'll feature that next week. Mostly because I don't want to figure out how to pull that off right now. But that is about as clean a rolled Japanese omelet as I have seen in quite some time. I've tried to do that, and I have not ended up with quite that pretty of a result. But I still ate it because I
don't really know what a Japanese omelet is. I can make a French omelet about 3 times out of 4 properly at this point.
Was Vegan Black Metal Chef?
And one...
Was that the one? No, that was Extreme Swedish Chef was the one where they just threw everything at a wall and screamed, right?
Giant plate of meat.
Ah, look, that's meat.
And that's essentially, that's a lot. I might want to do another.
I was going to ask. That feels like enough meat to overwhelm a stir fry. Stir fry is about ratio.
I will give this a try. I'm not going to try to plate it or anything. It's just a...
No. There it is.
Yeah.
It's Spam and rice and nori and seasoned rice vinegar and a little bit of sesame oil. And is there a little bit of soy sauce in there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's not a traditional ingredient. I am going to put in some, effectively, wasabi, which, unless you live in Japan, is probably what you've eaten every time you've eaten wasabi. Horseradish.
How
also
dare you?
in.
They would never dye the horseradish green and then call it wasabi, except all the time, constantly.
Absolutely not. No,
food
never,
you've ever
never.
had.
Even at sushi restaurants.
Oh, yeah. Well, real wasabi is pricey and hard to grow. Green dye and horseradish is easy and keeps the overhead.
Yeah, it's almost impossible to get outside Japan.
All right, here we go. Moment of truth. Huh? It's not a scowl of hatred. We're going in for a second bite. That's already a better sign. You know, that there's a 25% chance no second bite. No second bite, you know it's not good. No matter what else is said, if they don't go for a second bite, they're
It's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine.
I feel like that's the way a lot of this works out. It's just kind of like, yeah, it's all right. You know? I do wonder if you would get a better experience from the rolled version just because the ratio...
I think you could improve that by doing the proportions correctly.
Yeah, yeah.
Which would be easier with an actual, like, sushi roll.
Yeah.
But there's nothing offensive about it.
Yeah, I would say, like, at the very least, I've had it before. It's the kind of thing that, like, if somebody sent it with me in my lunch, I wouldn't be mad about it. You know, it's okay. It's not something that I've never asked anyone to make it for me. I've never been, it's not nostalgic for me. And I feel like it's one of those foods that is a nostalgic kid's food that if you grew up with, you think of it as being sort of comforting. But if you didn't, it's just another, just okay, sort of simply flavored.
Putting that with some of this pickled radish.
How is it with the onion? How is it with the pickle? Does that cut it at all?
It's a radish.
Oh, it's a radish. Right.
It's nice. It's nice. It gets rid of the rich clinginess of the Spam.
I'm kind of shocked that I didn't see more musubi that incorporated a little bit of pickled vegetable. I have to assume that that's something people do because, I mean, if you just think about, like, a ham sandwich or any pairing of a dense, fatty meat with carb.
Restaurant and how much pickled ginger there is on a plate.
Yeah.
It's meant as a palate cleanser. Although before I knew that, the first time I had sushi, I was definitely putting it on the sushi. Which
people do that all the time.
Apparently it's a big faux pas.
It is. You're also not supposed to dip the rice in the soy sauce, but everybody does. But you're not supposed to, but everybody does. But you're not supposed to, but everybody does.
Soy sauce I thought was fine. I forgot to peel this carrot, and I don't care. Like a lot of my knowledge, a bunch of it comes from Good Eats, and he goes over the etiquette of sushi in one of his videos, and he says something about it's fine to dip your sushi in this little soy sauce thing. You just do it with the back of your things and just do a swoop through it. You don't, like, drizzle it over or whatever.
Yeah. So the idea
but I don't live in Japan.
You dip the fish itself a little bit in, but if you dip the rice in, it just soaks it up, and that becomes an overpowering flavor.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So it's one of those little things that Chasen yelled at me about at one point. But
well, it's like also in Japan, apparently you're not allowed to pour yourself sake. Someone else has to do it, otherwise you're being rude.
Yes, that is another thing.
Just a little cultural detail.
And of course, slurping is completely is considered not rude in Japan. It's about the only way that you can actually eat ramen effectively. It actually makes it taste better because you get more aeration into the broth.
Exactly. If you ever see someone who's like a tea expert or like a coffee expert doing the taste tests at their job, it's always...
Yep. Got to get the air in.
That's how you're
supposed to. That's why
Yep.
I only snort.
Gotta iterate that
whiskey.
stuff. Oh, Jesus.
Ah! It burns every time. Wakes you up. You understand that's not how it's designed. When they said it burns, they didn't say pour it up your nose. Ah!
Yeah, also, it's still boiling. My sinus. That was fine.
Oh, is that right, D. Deloney? They do that at funerals. Oh,
Young
don't
onion,
stand
'cause I
chopsticks
wound
up
up
in a
with-
bowl of rice because they do that in funerals. Oh, I didn't know that one, but okay. I'll keep it on. I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah.
I have never accidentally done that, so I think I'm in the clear. As that would take more effort than the leaving them somewhere filthy on the table as I shuffle out of the restaurant. But good to know, and that's not something I'll do.
Usually, I believe you're supposed to kind of lay them against the little bowl or whatever.
Oh, that makes sense.
Just some green onions for garnish at the end because they were cheap when I went to the store. I'll get this out of here. And that's all my prep done, aside from I have some ginger garlic paste, which is like I made it when I was making some fakey tandoor chicken last week.
Nice.
It's like garlic and ginger mashed up with some oil and
Yeah, that's one of those things.
preserve it.
If you're doing it for a dish, why not make a lot of it? There's very few days where a ginger garlic paste
Oh,
wouldn't
very
be
fun.
useful.
Yeah, this is now cool enough to move off and give me room for my other pan.
All right, so we're gonna move to what kind of pan do you do fried rice in? I know that in theory, the wok is the traditional fried rice thing, and actually, if you're only going to own one or two dishes, I think there is an argument for a wok in that it can do a lot of double duty. But I don't have one right now, so when I do fried rice, I tend to do it in a cast iron. Hello! Hey, everybody! So sorry about that. Let me make sure. Let me see what I did. Hey, you're still there. Good.
I hear a James again.
This, I swear, is the biggest challenge. 1 second. I need to change up where you are.
Just your internet issues?
Yeah. It's just enjoying crapping out on me at random. I'm not really sure why. Who knows? I live in not the
I couldn't tell you.
not the most advanced part of the country, and it's already a country that does not do great with this kind of thing. So
Yeah, Europe and Japan, or East Asia rather, not just Japan, have much better internet than we do.
wildly so. And it's also one of those things where it depends on where you are. I don't know how it is in Canada, but in the United States, if you are not in one of the major cultural hubs, if you're in part of what they call the flyover in this country, the services tumble in terms of quality. So my being in an undisclosed area.
I live in big city. There's essentially two cities in my province, one of which has quote unquote 80,000 people in it, but that is including the environs. And the other one is way smaller and only is technically a city because they changed the rules to lower the number of people in my province that you need to label it as. And if you're in either of those places, like I have fiber off, and I have fiber off because it's exactly as cheap as the cheapest cable or DSL or whatever other thing, which is weird to me. But if you go to my friend, lives just like 2 or 3 kilometers out of town, he has essentially fancy phone internet for his computer, and it sucks a lot.
Oh yeah, I've lived off that kind of internet, and it's not the most fun thing in the world. It is. I actually, but I haven't in the last few years. I bet it's even worse now with the way that people just take for granted internet access, and a certain quality of internet access. I bet there's a lot that you can't do if you're not on a serious stream at this point.
Yeah, it can be hard to get internet in some places, and it's a problem.
Well, and it's going to be more and more of a problem. It's just another one of those things. I mean, when I lived in San Antonio back in the 90s, you could still go to parts of that town where the pavement would end, and there would no longer be paved roads. And I feel like internet is sort of like that. If you grow up in an area where you just don't have access to it, you are being set behind in some very severe ways right off the top. Also, great, nice little pamphlet.
Even something as basic as there.
Yeah, there you go. You're doing it.
Switch to the non-stick.
It's one of those things that's like not hard, but until you start doing it, you think of as being somewhat intimidating. But in any case,
Diner or Western style omelet, and so I learned to do that to flip the omelet in the air.
I have not tried that yet. Something about flipping wet things in the air with my luck and dexterity, I just feel like I'm signing up to wear it. You know, let me put it this way. If I tried that and ended up with eggs splattered all over the kitchen, would anybody be like, who could have guessed? No. I think everybody would say, yeah, you didn't put down sheeting first?
Yeah, I've definitely gotten a lot of them on the floor. It's eating that omelet for sure. Just maybe don't try it if you're not confident. That being said, I have also eaten slightly splattered omelets off the floor.
Oh,
you just have to make sure your floors are clean.
Part of my omelet recipe is mopping the floor thoroughly.
Exactly. But since that's going to take a minute to cook, and I'm going to have to do it at some point, might as well throw a plug for the stream I'm going to do after this.
Yes,
which is going to be my final charity stream of the year.
So is this the last one? This is your last
Pierre for color. This is my last one. I've reached the point where the marathon has kicked my ass, and I can't. I don't want to do anymore.
I think
I've been doing it.
I love the idea of doing things for charity, and I think that's, I don't know if you saw, but we had Brian Ferenzi do, we didn't, but Brian Ferenzi was doing a birthday charity stream on Friday.
Oh, yeah. I threw a couple bucks at that charity.
Awesome. Yeah, I think there's something really cool about doing things to raise a little bit of money for charity when we're doing live streams and that kind of thing. I can see how doing Final Fantasy specifically could get to be a bit of a grind, especially if you've done it over and over again, which if I remember correctly, you have done it over and over and over again. So I would imagine...
I've been doing it since... before July, twice a week, streams of it for like 4 hours.
Whew.
So, there's...
But still, it is a great charity, and if this is your last time doing it, I really want to encourage people to go over and check it out. It's for a great cause. There is more information and detail about it at Mr. Entity's Twitch channel, which is where we're going to be heading after we finish with the fried rice, and that will hopefully happen soon. Let's see, reconnecting again. Oh, it's a day. Okay, are we now?
For every chapter of those books I'm reading.
I died. You were off for like literally 2 minutes. I'm so sorry. It knocked me again. I am so sorry.
I have to do all my copy again that I've essentially memorized at this point because I've said it so much.
All right, you're gonna have to start at the top. So again, Mr. Entity has been doing these charity live streams for the last couple of months. He was doing them during the Kickstarter, obviously, and has been doing them since. Today is the last one, and it is for a great cause. Mr. Entity, give us the pitch for it. We'll also, of course, be posting in Discord when it goes live.
It is, the Fort Del Fiesta is a charity event that happens every year where people play Final Fantasy V with essentially randomized jobs, which makes it harder without going into why that is. And this year we are doing it for Color of Change, which is a charity that helps fight against systemic injustice for Black people. But it, a lot of the stuff is also just more globally applicable. Things like fighting against cash bail, essentially a way to keep poor people in prison and rich people out.
Yep.
Fighting against economic inequality, fighting for neutrality, lots of voting rights and access to voting, things like that. They're a very worthy charity, and I do have prizes and stuff to give away. Probably a lot of you in the stream here will already have access to the James stuff I have to give away, but I also have some video games that people gave to me from their Humble Bundle extras, and I bought a few myself for double charity. Yeah, I'm also, but people throw money in like, here's $2 or here's $5 or whatever amount of money that you can just give. And some people also go, I'll give a cent for every person that beats the game. So it's a little hard for me to work out exactly how much money I've raised, but I think it's in the range of $450 to $500.
Great.
Which is not bad. I think for someone who started them with like 30 followers.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it's one of those things that, you know, I think we're in a sort of all hands on deck moment where I think everybody's got a feeling that they'd like to be doing something to help, and $500 to help with those issues is better than no bucks to help with those issues by far. And I think it helps re-stipulate how important those issues are and how important it is to be trying to help people out during this time. Even
the people who can't, give money or anything, I appreciate them just being there so I can point out the charity and point out the event. More eyes on it, the bigger it becomes.
It makes a really big difference. Everybody who interacts with something or helps boost a signal is really making a very, very big contribution, especially to smaller streamers or charity streams. It's not the same game as the main page of Twitch or a YouTuber that's getting millions of views. There are people out there with relatively smaller audiences making very tremendous impacts with a committed and interesting community behind them. So, I think it's really kind of a lovely thing.
If I was like one of I don't know, there's a dude that plays Dark Souls only. That's the only thing he does, called Lobos Jr. or some such, and he gets like 1,000 views per stream, probably.
Oh yeah,
millions of followers. If I was that guy, I probably would have made $500 the first day.
Yeah,
but I think I've done pretty well for where I'm at.
You absolutely have, and that kind of thing adds up. I'm very curious about the idea of charity streaming moving forward. I think it's something we're going to chat with in the Discord in the months ahead. Obviously, we did a whole lot of fundraising for Hand to Mouth here very recently. And so now I'm not worrying about monies with anything. But
that's another thing. Right now is not really the best time to be trying to do charity. A lot of people have some issues going on.
Well, in some ways, it is a great time for the people that don't have those issues going on, that are looking for avenues to help out or to contribute, that might like the chance, And so I think that's the thing to look at, is that obviously there's no expectation of anybody giving anything, and especially for hand-to-mouth stuff, we're making a lot of this for people who have very little funds, so there's never an expectation. But there are also
and there's people in your Discord who have given money to that charity, and I really appreciate that. A, they probably just gave money to you. B, maybe not that well off financially if they're following hand to mouth. And C, it's a fucking pandemic. So, getting a buck here or there from people who are having a hard time to help out other people who are also having a hard time.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
$1 from somebody who has 10 is worth a lot more than 10 grand from somebody who has $1 billion in a certain level. So.
Those edges on the top there. And we let that rice fry out a bit.
And so that's pretty much at that point, you brown it up and keep stirring. Now when do you add, this is where I mess up fried rice, when do you add the rest of your seasonings?
All I've got in there right now is salt. I put in some salt a minute ago. I didn't salt the rice earlier because I didn't know how salty the pork was going to be, so I didn't put salt in when I was cooking. But the soy sauce, which once again, brand, my favorite brand. You kind of, what you want to do, ostensibly, is put it kind of around the edge so it has a chance to sort of caramelize a bit. You can't super do that with a home oven. There's a reason the fried rice you get at a restaurant tastes different, and it's the wok hay, or essentially oil that's gone into the air and caught fire in tiny, tiny, tiny particles. which you can only do with the very high heat of a wok on a wok burner, which runs, like, if you want to do real fried rice at home, you need to go outside, buy a wok burner, and do it like you would on a barbecue or something. Well,
Yeah,
pretty near the end.
you also need.
You want the rice to dry out.
Yeah, you also need, with the wok and the wok burner, it's also just, I mean, it's basically a jet engine. Like, that thing is capable of shoving out an incredible amount of BTUs. There's nothing comparable in a modern American or Western kitchen in terms of ability to just pump out fire. There you go.
Caramelized rice. That's what you want. You want a little bit of the crunch. So high heat all the time. Like, I don't know how well you can see it. My oven is at 6. That's because if it goes beyond 6, it burns everything. 6 is my max temperature.
Yes, I've had many a cheap electric stove that had that. The low, medium low, nuclear. And it just it just kind of like
Yeah.
Oh no, that's the centimeter where it starts to melt iron. Oh, well, we'll keep it.
Yeah, it's you got to get used to your own oven basically every time you move. They're all different. Unless you have a gas stove, which is a little more controllable and understandable.
Yeah, I gotta say, right now I have a gas oven. I've definitely had electric in many times over the years, and electric is so much trickier to do that kind of rhythm of, oh, I'm gonna want this to be cooler in about 3 minutes, so I can turn it down now. Or just that kind of play.
Yeah, you can't. You have to take it off the burner.
Yeah.
So
now that things are
ginger,
caramelized, we're kind of tossing in the things that would otherwise perhaps have scorched if they had been in a little bit too early. And this is kind of when you add a little flavor to the fried rice. Up until this point, you have been toasting the rice, caramelizing the base ingredients, and sort of combining them together and softening and cooking them, but the actual flavoring of it happens towards the back half.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll let that cook out for a second here. I'm also going to put a little bit of sesame oil in there, which I could have done earlier, I just forgot. And then I'm going to taste it, and I might add some vinegar. I think it will be good. So now I can really smell that garlic and ginger. This is cooking off on the side there. Let's get it in.
So it looks like this is just a really basic combination of rice wine vinegar, soy sauce, ginger garlic paste.
Garlic and ginger, basically, yeah.
And is that...
I'm trying not to necessarily overwhelm the Spam, which I think I probably will.
Yeah, and is that lemon juice or beer that you've got there?
I've got rice wine vinegar.
What's in the yellow bottle with the pour spout?
This?
With the pour spout.
Oh, that's just some oil in my very classy bottle that used to contain cider vinegar.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Oh, that's great, actually. Okay. So yeah, super simple, pretty basic pantry items.
Yeah, I fill it out of this, so
nice.
It's easier to pour out of that than it is that giant jug.
That's a good call. I do the same thing with my olive oil because you can get olive oil
or something
in bulk for cheap, but you gotta. It then becomes a pain to use, so I have a smaller bottle that I use to use it day to day.
Yep. I actually get very good olive oil here because we have a little Lebanese market that
nice.
They just get really, really good olive oil from Lebanon. I'm going to go with a little more soy in that. And you won't be able to see it because I don't have that kind of fidelity or a good camera angle. But once the rice starts kind of jumping around, that means it's out of water. And that's, your rice is kind of...
Oh, okay. So once the rice starts kind of like crackling and spitting, that means the water has run out and it's kind of getting to...
And that's when it's going to start to like get that crunchy thing that I showed you.
Yeah.
And that's when you can just kind of cover it in soy sauce instead of having it absorb all of it. I'm going to see how much of this Spam seems like a good idea.
Yeah, you wouldn't... Like, that is way more Spam than I would put in one dish of fried rice. But there you go. And I like, I like the toss maneuver here. I think this is actually a good thing to keep in mind. Fried rice, when you move it around in the pan with a utensil, has a tendency to break down the starches and get a little gummy. So if you can keep it tossed and keep it separated, you're going to end up with a much better texture than you would otherwise. So I think that's something to keep in mind. You want to move it around, you want to incorporate it, but if you use too many utensils on it, you're going to end up with pork.
And anyone who doesn't know how this works, it doesn't work the way you think it does. Like most people think you're going blah, like it's doing this. It's very much back and forth.
Yeah.
With a little bit of a lift at the end. So it just kind of flies off the edge, and you pull it back to the last minute.
Yeah, I have to say, I only recently started trying to learn how to do that. It's not hard. Once you understand it's back and forth, just don't do it too hard.
You just have to have, don't try to do it with a cast iron, for example. It's got to be the right thing. And it's just knowing that it's back and forth and not off it, really, is how you do it. Now, let me get a plate. I don't want to be copyright struck today. Sorry about the song. YouTube is an asshole.
And look at that. That's a pile of food right there.
And if I want to fancy it up a bit for presentation, whatever. If I really want to class this up, I can give you all one piece of advice. If you want to class up any meal ever, just get yourself one of these.
That's right. A top hat.
Problem solved.
Now, if you really need to make the meal fancy, a monocle will always add an extra spot.
Yeah. Oh, I could go get a monocle. I have some single-use unlubricated ones.
That's right. There are some knockoff lubricated monocles. You don't want those. You want the original unlubricated monocle.
I like the flavored ones.
I like the kiwi strawberry monocle. How is the spam and the fried rice?
That's good. I would, if I served that to someone and didn't tell them what it was, they would just go, that's tasty. It's a little weird, but it's tasty.
Now at the back end, did you separate the spam from the discount meat, or is it kind of a blend of the two in there at this point?
It's a blend of the two, but I can pick them out by sight. Like this one is very clearly the discount meat. It's weird saying that spam isn't discount meat to me, because that's exactly what I associate with.
Me too, but it's clearly not, because you can go
and then that's spam. But with the toss and the flavorings, we'll see if I can tell any difference now between. The texture on that one. Yeah. The spam is better. It's not better enough, I don't think, to really matter.
That makes sense. So it's one of those where the spam is a little bit higher quality, but we're so past the threshold that at this point it kind of doesn't matter. That makes sense to me.
Yeah, there are certain things that I absolutely will spend extra money on. Like I will spend the extra $1 or $2 to get Heinz ketchup because it's just better than the other stuff I can buy.
I wish it wasn't. I wish it wasn't. But ketchup is garbage.
I don't use it in that much, honestly. I used to. Oh, I forgot I had some garnish.
Ooh. Thank you so much.
Before it was garbage.
Now that we have a green onion on it, it is no longer garbage.
Now it's a food from a restaurant.
That's right. Now it's Instagrammable.
No. That's a perfectly pleasant meal.
Amazing. And so the big
I have definitely changed my views on spam. I think you just have to know that you have to cook it for one thing and use it in something that maybe it's not the primary flavor, but is just there as
It's almost as if spam were old, sort of unimpressive meat, and recipes designed for aging, unimpressive meat are applicable to spam.
Who would have known? Maybe I'll try pickling it.
Oh, if you try pickling it, I want pictures and a report on the Discord because that sounds like the most amazing thing in the universe. Pickled spam. That's gonna be our first million hit video. You understand? Because that's all I'm gonna put on it. I'll put no other indication. The title will be pickled spam.
That's all you need. All you need.
That's right. Okay. Well, I am going to let
Well, yeah,
you go,
that's
Mr. Entity, and I'm
like
going to set up your
this was
stream.
not necessarily a success, but the rice was.
I think so.
Yeah.
So it's looked like
Yeah,
fried
give me,
rice was the
10
better of
minutes,
the
take some
two.
Q&A or whatever. Oh, absolutely. Again, it might be the proportions that this wound up with. But I don't know. It's fine. I just wouldn't make it again.
Right. No, I think that's
I'll
fair.
eat it.
I think your insight that the ratio there is a really important thing. I know with tacos, the ratio of ingredients make or break the experience of the dish. So I would guess that like the traditional musubi, which is about 50% meat, 50% rice with just a little bit of nori around the top, that may be a different kind of ball game. I don't know. I still want to try that with pickled vegetables at some point. Maybe I'll do that in a test kitchen. In any case, Mr. Entity, I think you need to go get ready for your stream because I'm about to kick over to you. So
Yeah, absolutely. I need to unduct tape this camera holding thing from my mic and then put it in front of my computer.
Perfection. I am going to do just a little bit of a rundown here on the book club, and then I will kick it over to you. So just let me, send up a flare.
Cool.
When you're
I'll get back to you in the chat in a couple.
All right.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much for being on, and I appreciate it again, and I hope we'll have you soon. Oh.
Perfectly happy to come back anytime you want.
Excellent. All right, everybody. So today we saw fried rice made by our Canadian friend, Mr. Entity, made with Spam and generic canned meat. And as it turned out, of course, that works pretty well because fried rice is one of those recipes that is designed to stretch and mask food that isn't as fresh. It's certainly not the only recipe that does that, but it does it pretty well. So it is a great, great option if you have leftovers that you need to reprocess or recycle, or if you have really just about any kind of vegetable or meat that is about to go bad. Fried rice is a great way, one, to stretch that into several meals through the addition of rice, and two, to make it something that's flavorful and fun and filling and enjoyable as opposed to just sort of sad. Oh yes, I said, let me go ahead. I'll pull up that omelet really quickly. Why don't we take a look at it real fast? Let me see what I can do here. I know the bits and the boops. I know the boops and the bits, and I can pull them up, 'cause I know where they is. Do-do-do-do-do-do. Sir Deadlock. That's right. I was merely making a bad joke about Zach's manacles. All right. Let's just pull that up here. So this is Scythe's omelet. Let me just get it. No. Over here. Over here, I say. There we go. Aha! No. No. None of that now. None of that. Okay. What are we doing? Where is it go? Where did it go? Ah, there it is. There it is. Let's get that a little bit bigger. There we go. Look at that. That's downright pretty. Look at that omelet. You see, okay, so you see how many times that's folded over? That is the real test right there, is to have it that nice and neat and rectangular with those individual layers. I've done it once or twice, and I have to admit, usually I just end up making an omelet taco and going with it, but I am definitely impressed. So what's in that, Scythe? What do you have going on in that omelet? Is there anything in particular? Is there any cheese? I don't know what the Japanese omelet traditionally contains. I know that sometimes it contains nothing. There's the folded egg dish. 5 folds. That's pretty impressive. You've got to be able to spread that out thin and cook it pretty even to pull that off. All right. So, Japanese omelet, maybe something for us to try out. I think that's another thing that, in terms of ingredient, is. Oh, let's see. General rolled omelet is soy, salt, mirin, and dashi. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So, it's mostly things that you mix into the egg itself and then you fold and wrap the egg. Yes. Dashi is the broth that's kelp based with some bonito flakes. I can understand maybe not doing the dashi entirely because you're a little bit not into the effort. Could you get away with just a little bit of a broth maybe, or I guess at that point why not just make the broth and have it on hand, and then you just might you're back where you started in terms of effort. So what are you gaining? Oh my goodness. Well, okay, I'm going to take this down and just let people know a couple of little things. So... Oh, 8-hour broth soak. Yeah, I'm not doing that. So, this week, I'm going to be playing a video game here on Hand to Mouth Club. One part of being broke that doesn't get discussed as much as it should is the latent stress and cortisol that is involved in being consistently financially vulnerable. And so one thing that I thought might be a good thing to do, and something that I'm going to be doing for myself anyway, is starting a bit of a mindfulness or meditation practice. And it just so happened that there is a new video game out on Steam that is designed to help you get into the groove of a meditation process. It's called Plane, and I'm going to be playing it and live streaming it throughout the week. I might just do it at the Discord. I might do it on Twitch. I haven't completely figured that out yet. I haven't decided, but it will be around for the community, and I hope that you will consider joining me.